There is a question that can make a perfectly reasonable adult hand over the steering wheel of their own brain. It sounds tiny. It sounds polite. It sounds like nothing. Can I ask you something real quick? The trap has 3 moving parts. First, speed. Second, politeness. Third, uncertainty. Put those together and your brain starts reaching for the easiest social answer before it reaches for the honest one. Real quick is a tiny costume for urgency. It tells you this will be small, so you should not slow it down. But many bad decisions begin as things that were supposedly too small to inspect. The second the question lands, social pressure starts climbing. You want to be cooperative. You want to be easy. You want to avoid the awkward little silence where everyone can hear your spine trying to grow. Most people do not lose control because they are weak. They lose control because they are trying to pay the politeness tax. They answer too fast, explain too much, and apologize for having a boundary. The first defense is not a dramatic speech. It is a boring pause, 1 second, 2 seconds, long enough for your brain to stop sprinting and ask the very adult question, what is this actually about? Use a question before an answer. Not because you are trying to win a debate, but because you are refusing to enter a room before the lights are on. Here is the clean script. Sure, what is this about? That sentence is small enough to use in real life. It does not accuse anyone. It does not perform dominance. It simply asks the fog to stop being so foggy. If they keep pressing, you script too. I can answer after I know what you need. Notice the trick. You are not refusing. You are putting the conversation back in the correct order. The correct order is simple. Context first, choice second, commitment third. Manipulation tries to reverse that order because commitment made in confusion is easier to collect. Your body often notices pressure before your thoughts do. Tight chest, fast answer, sudden urge to justify yourself to a person who has not actually accused you of anything. Treat that as data, not drama. So the full defense is not complicated. Notice speed. Ask context. Delay commitment. Keep your answer short. Repeat if needed. It is not glamorous, but neither is a seatbelt, and those are useful. If a compliment makes you feel warm, chosen, and slightly cornered, congratulations. Your ego may have just signed a tiny contract without reading the terms. Let us be clear, compliments are not evil. Dr. Wiggle enjoys being admired, especially by mirrors with excellent taste. The trap begins when praise quietly turns into pressure. The engine has 4 parts. First praise, then special status, then a small request, then guilt if you hesitate. It is not magic. It is social engineering with nicer shoes. Case example, someone opens with, "You are honestly the best person for this." Lovely sentence, tiny parade. Then the invoice arrives. "Can you cover this for me today?" A normal request asks for your action. A manipulative compliment asks for your identity first. "You are so kind. You are so reliable. You are not like other people. Now prove it." That is why the body reacts fast. Chest lifts. Smile appears. Brain puts on a tiny tuxedo. Then, before logic arrives, you already want to stay the impressive person they just described. At work, the classic version is, "Only you can fix this." Sometimes that is true. Sometimes it means everyone else escaped the building and you are standing closest to the mop. A compliment can create a fake debt. They gave you approval, so now your nervous system wants to pay them back. But attention is not a bill. admiration is not a purchase order. Separate admire from ask. If the compliment is genuine, it survives a question. If it is bait, your question makes the hook visible. Use this when praise gets sticky. I appreciate that. I still need the details. Calm, short, no courtroom speech. No nervous tap dance in formal shoes. A clean boundary can be warm. That is kind of you to say, I cannot commit yet. This protects the relationship and your calendar from becoming a community donation box. Use the specificity test. What exactly? By when? Why me? What happens if I cannot? Honest requests get clearer. Pressure tactics get annoyed and start sweating ink. The defense is simple. Enjoy the compliment, locate the request, ask for details, pause before commitment, give a short answer, no trumpet section required. If someone says, after everything I have done for you, and your stomach immediately signs a confession, welcome. You may be inside the guilt trip. Guilt is not always your conscience. Sometimes it is someone else's request wearing your conscience as a little hat. Charming hat, terrible boundaries. The engine is simple. First, they remind you of a debt. Then they add emotional urgency. Then they make refusal feel cruel. Finally, you comply just to stop feeling like a villain. The classic line is, after everything I have done for you, notice the trick. A past kindness gets converted into a present invoice. Your guilt meter rises before your thinking catches up. Heart tightens, shoulders fold. Suddenly you are apologizing to a problem you did not create. Here is the first rule. I feel bad does not automatically mean I did wrong. Feelings are signals. They are not judges wearing wigs. Family guilt often sounds warm. We never ask you for anything. Translation: we are asking now, and we would like your no to arrive already ashamed. Separate gratitude from obligation. Gratitude says, I value what you did. Obligation says, I owe you my next decision. Those are not the same animal in a coat. Guilt trips love emotional emergencies. If you do not answer now, everything collapses. Maybe, or maybe urgency is the costume pressure wears when it forgot to bring logic. The trap often gives you a role. The rescuer, the good child, the loyal friend, the team player. Roles are sticky. Dr. Wiggle recommends checking your shoes. The role ladder goes like this. You are good. Good people help. Helping means saying yes. Therefore, your no becomes evidence against your character. Very neat, very rude. A normal request asks for action. A guilt trip asks for identity first. Are you really the kind of person who would say no? That is not a question. That is a tiny courtroom. Try this line. I understand this matters to you. I still need to decide what I can do. Calm, warm, boring. Boring is a shield with sensible shoes. Another classic is, if you cared, you would. That sentence tries to turn love into a vending machine. Insert guilt, receive service. Care and control can look similar from far away. Care leaves room for your limits. Control treats your limits like a rude furniture choice. If someone can punish you by saying nothing, congratulations. You have met the loudest quiet room in modern psychology. First, a healthy pause is not the same thing. People sometimes need time to calm down. That is normal. The silent treatment is different. It makes you chase clarity like it owes you rent. Here is the engine. Something happens. They withdraw. You feel uncertainty. You chase. Then you apologize, explain, or surrender just to get the room speaking again. Look at this distance. Nobody needs to scream for the message to land. Silence can turn one bench into two separate countries with very suspicious border control. Your brain hates a blank space. A blank reply becomes a theater. You write the script, cast yourself as the villain, and somehow also buy tickets. This is why the meter spikes. Ambiguity plus attachment equals panic math. The answer is not more guessing. The answer is less guessing with better shoes. The classic line is, "I'm fine." Translation may be, "I am not fine, and I would like you to interview my silence for 6 hours." Do not interview silence. Ask once cleanly. If you want to talk, I am here. If not, I am going to continue my day. Healthy space has 3 parts: a reason, a time frame, a return. I need 20 minutes, then we can talk. That is a pause with a door handle. Punishing silence has no door handle, no reason, no time frame, no return. Just you, a locked room, and a nervous little thesis about what you did wrong. Chasing often rewards the silence. 10 messages, 4 apologies, 1 essay, and a small emotional fruit basket. Suddenly, the strategy has excellent customer service. Use the 1 message rule. Send 1 calm message that names availability and respect. Then stop feeding the machine. Dr. Wiggle says the machine is already too shiny. Final script. I am available for a direct conversation. I am not available for punishment by silence. Short enough to remember. Calm enough to survive contact with drama. A fake apology is not an apology. It is a reset button wearing a tiny emotional mustache. The goal is not to understand what happened. The goal is to make you stop reacting to what happened. The classic specimen is, "I am sorry you feel that way." Elegant, polished, completely allergic to responsibility. If the sentence contains more weather report than ownership, the accountability level is probably lying on the floor. Then comes the little magic eraser. "But, I am sorry, but you made me." Everything before but gets sent to a tiny legal basement. Another version arrives with gifts. Flowers, dinner, a dramatic message. Sweet. Maybe, but gifts can be receipts when behavior stays exactly the same. The loop is simple. Harm, gift, silence, repeat. The ribbon changes color. The pattern keeps its shoes on. Public apologies can be useful, but sometimes the apology is performed for the audience, not for the person who was hurt. Watch the phrase, "I already apologized." Translation: I placed 1 coin in the machine. Why are consequences still making noises? Some apologies quietly ask you to sign the same contract again. I hurt you. I say sorry. You reset. I learn nothing. Real repair has 3 parts. Name what happened. Name the effect. Name the change. Without change, the apology is just a very polite echo. Part 1, name the behavior. Not vibes, not personality fog, the behavior. Part 2, own the impact. If the apology argues with your hurt, it is not listening. It is wearing boxing gloves. Part 3, state the change. Not a poem about regret. A next behavior you can actually observe. Bad script. I am sorry if you were offended. Translation: I am sorry your emotional furniture was arranged so inconveniently. Better script: I interrupted you in front of everyone. That embarrassed you. Next time I will stop and let you finish. Look for future tense, not just I regret it. Look for next time I will. Final script: I can hear that you regret it. What matters now is what changes next time. The moving goalpost is a game where the rules change the second you start winning. Very sporty, very exhausting, terrible uniforms. It sounds like feedback. It feels like improvement. But the hidden goal is simple. Keep you chasing approval that never has to arrive. Here is the classic version. You do the thing they asked for. Suddenly, the real issue is something else. The finish line quietly puts on shoes. The loop is clean. Request, effort, almost approval, new requirement. Then the loop wears a little hat and calls itself growth. It hooks conscientious people because you think, maybe if I get this one exactly right, the tension will finally end. Watch the approval meter. In healthy feedback, effort changes the score. In a moving goalpost, effort only unlocks the next complaint. Healthy feedback has a stable target. It can say, here is what would help, and when you do it, the target does not teleport behind the sofa. Moving feedback has a haunted target. You reach it, it coughs politely, and now apparently the real problem is your tone, your timing, or your eyebrows. At work, it can look like this. Finish the task, then the standard changes. Not because the project changed, because praise would reduce control. In relationships, it sounds like if you cared, you would call more, so you call more. Then suddenly, if you cared, you would give me space. The trick works best when compliments are rationed. A tiny crumb of approval can make the next impossible standard feel worth chasing. Ask one question, what exactly would count as done? Not impressive, not better. Done. The word done is a little flashlight. Then write it down. Moving goalposts hate written targets because written targets do not politely forget what happened yesterday. Before you spend effort, clarify the target. What result do you want? How will we know, and will that be enough? The phrase, will that be enough, sounds small, but it exposes the whole machine. If there is no answer, there may be no finish line. Defense 1, reflect the shift. Last time the target was X, now I am hearing why. What changed? The pity play is what happens when someone turns sadness into a remote control. One button says, comfort me. Another button says, cancel your boundary. Very convenient. Horrible batteries. Real pain deserves care. A pity play is different. It uses pain or the performance of pain to make you stop asking reasonable questions. Healthy vulnerability says, I am hurting and I want to talk. Manipulative pity says, I am hurting, therefore you are now the villain if you continue thinking. Case file 1, the spotlight. You bring up one specific problem. Suddenly, the entire room is about how wounded they feel that you would even mention it. The loop is simple. You raise an issue, they become tragic, you comfort them, and the original issue crawls under the rug wearing a tiny helmet. It works because most decent people do not want to be cruel. The pity play borrows your decency, then uses it as a little courtroom stamp. Watch the rescue meter. A little guilt is normal, but when your body feels dragged from concern into emergency duty, something just pulled a lever. A real need has a shape. It can usually answer what would help. A pity performance often stays foggy because fog is easier to bill by the hour. Case file 2, the rescue stage. They do not ask for one clear thing. They create a scene where the correct answer is, abandon your plans and become the emotional ambulance. The hidden contract says, if I suffer loudly enough, you owe me compliance. Nobody signs it, somehow your name appears in ink. Classic lines include, "After everything I have been through, I guess I am just a terrible person," or "Fine, I will disappear." Notice the magic trick. Your topic is gone. Case File 3, the Favor Ledger. They list every sacrifice they ever made, then quietly place your current boundary at the bottom as unpaid debt. Here is the dark little accounting system. I helped you once, so I own a small emotional apartment in your decisions forever. This is why generous people get caught. You remember kindness. They remember leverage. Same history, very different receipt printer. Healthy support has 3 pieces: a clear feeling, a clear request, and respect for your answer. If one is missing, slow down. The intermittent reward trap is when someone gives you warmth just often enough to keep you waiting for the next crumb. Not love, not consistency. A tiny emotional slot machine wearing a charming hat. Here is the diagnosis. A stable person gives care in a recognizable pattern. A manipulative pattern gives care unpredictably, so your brain starts treating basic attention like a jackpot. Case File 1, the slot machine. One day they text like you are the center of the universe. The next day, silence. Then another sweet message drops in, and your nervous system pulls the lever again. This is why the pattern can feel romantic from the inside. Your body is not saying, "This is safe." It is saying, "The reward is uncertain," and uncertainty makes the chase louder. The loop has 4 parts: warmth, disappearance, anxiety, and relief. Then the relief gets confused with love because the brain is dramatic and apparently owns a small theater. The cruel trick is that unpredictable rewards can feel more addictive than predictable ones. If kindness always came at the same time, you would relax. If kindness might arrive any second, you keep watching the door. Case File 2, the message board. Maybe they are busy, maybe they are mad, maybe they forgot. Maybe the little committee inside your head has started a full investigation with snacks. Notice the word maybe. Maybe keeps the game alive. A clear no hurts, then ends. A maybe keeps you emotionally subscribed to a channel you never meant to join. Watch the anticipation meter. The biggest spike is often not the reward itself. It is the waiting, the refresh, the checking, the tiny hope with a very expensive hat. Healthy attraction does not require you to solve a weather system every morning. It can still be exciting, but the floor exists. You are not dating a trapdoor with cologne. Unstable warmth creates a special confusion. When they are kind, you feel chosen. When they disappear, you feel defective. Then the next kindness feels like proof that you are okay again. Case File 3, the waiting room. You start planning your day around a possible reply, not an actual plan, a possible reply. Dr. Wiggle calls this donating rent to a ghost. Case File 4, the message hook. The reply is not even special. It just arrives after enough silence that your body treats it like water in the desert. If someone needs your answer right now, before you can breathe, read, think, ask a friend, or locate your poor little spine, you may not be in an emergency. You may be in a sales funnel wearing a human face. Case File 1, the alarm clock. The message arrives with tiny fireworks. We need to talk now. Buy this now. Sign today. Reply before I change my mind. Notice the common ingredient, speed before clarity. False urgency works because the body is dramatic. Your nervous system hears a deadline and starts searching for danger. Suddenly, a normal choice feels like a trapdoor, and Dr. Wiggle has misplaced the tiny safety manual. The loop is simple: pressure, panic, compliance, relief, and then regret. The relief is the trick. When the pressure stops, your body says, "Thank goodness." But relief is not proof that the choice was good. Important little footnote: without the foot, not every deadline is manipulation. Taxes exist. Flights leave. Restaurants close. Real urgency explains itself. False urgency gets offended when you ask for detail. Case File 2, the limited time offer. The sign says the door is closing, the cart is expiring, the price is vanishing into the fog. Sometimes that is marketing. Sometimes it is a small carnival cannon aimed at your judgment. Case File 3, the hourglass. Watch what happens when someone says, "If you loved me, you would answer tonight." The sand is not measuring reality. It is measuring how fast they can move you away from your own standards. Case File 4, everyone is rushing around. Notice the spell. Movement creates meaning. Noise creates importance. A manipulator may not need a strong argument if they can make the room feel like a piano falling downstairs. Here is the diagnostic meter. The more they rush you, shame you, flatter you, and punish questions, the higher the pressure goes. By the time it reaches the red zone, you are not choosing. You are escaping discomfort. Case File 5, the paper on the table. Sign before you read it. Agree before you compare. Promise before you sleep on it. A rushed signature is often a confession written by someone else's stopwatch. The fastest way to detect false urgency is to ask what information is being kept away from you. What are the terms? What happens if I wait? Who benefits if I decide before I understand? Case File 6, the stopwatch. A timer can be useful for boiling eggs, athletic training, and dramatic cooking shows. It is less charming when attached to your boundaries, your money, or your future. If someone keeps showing you a beautiful future, but keeps billing you in the present, pause. You may not be hearing a plan. You may be watching tomorrow used as a credit card with your name on it. Tiny important footnote: wearing tiny serious shoes. Not every plan that fails is manipulation. People dream, budgets change, health changes, life trips over furniture. Future faking is not a broken plan. It is a repeated promise used to move your boundaries before proof appears. By the end, you will have a 3-question test. It is simple enough to remember during a romantic speech, a family guilt ceremony, or a business pitch with suspiciously warm lighting. Promise, proof, price. Keep those 3 words in your pocket. Case File 1, the ring. The future sounds beautiful. We will get married. We will have a home. We will be different from everyone else. Maybe that is sincere, but if the ring-shaped speech always arrives right before you ask for respect, watch carefully. The loop is elegant in the worst way. They promise a future, you soften a boundary. They receive the benefit, proof does not arrive. You ask again, and another future gets delivered like a shiny invoice with perfume on it. First warning sign: the future appears exactly when accountability arrives. You ask about the lie, the debt, the disrespect, the missing follow-through, and suddenly you are touring a mansion in the clouds with velvet curtains and no plumbing. Now the test. Question 1, what is the promise? Write it in 1 sentence. If the promise cannot be written clearly, you are not holding a plan. You are holding emotional smoke in a hat. Question 2, what proof exists today? Not chemistry, not intensity, not a 10-minute speech with tragic eyebrows. Proof. A booked appointment, a changed habit, a saved amount, a signed agreement, a calendar invite, a repeated action. Question 3. What am I being asked to pay before proof arrives? Time, sex, money, secrecy, forgiveness, reputation, unpaid work, another chance, another silence. The price tells you what the future is being used to buy.